Welcome back to a Podcast. Today is episode 60 and will be our final episode for this 2022 season. Today is just going to be us three. I'm Jason O, along with
Griffin most.
And Soup.
Today, Wyatt is out and Laurence is also out. So we'll be without those two guys, but we have an action-packed episode for you guys for today. We will be previewing the Gophers bowl game versus Syracuse for the Pep Boys Pinstripe Bowl. Is it Pep Boys or Bad Boys?
Bad Boy Mowers.
Bad Boys Motors.
Mowers.
Even better.
Bowl. And discuss some cool things about the game coming up, some connections to all three of us when we were in the marching band, preview the game itself, what to expect about our opponent, about who the Gophers are, and then from there discuss the things that happened during championship weekend and much more. So let's get started, gentlemen. So on Sunday was announced that we're going to the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. To hit some old memories here, like I remember, you guys remember in the past being in the band where like, are we going to New York and freezing our butts off at Yankee Stadium, or are we going down to the sunny parts of Florida or something or Arizona? You guys remember those conversations back then?
Yeah,
always.
So
at least it's not Detroit, right?
But yeah, so it finally happened. Minnesota is going to the Pinstripe Bowl, even though in years past there's like chances where we could have gone. But we are going this year, and we're facing against Syracuse Orange. So just a little tidbit. If those who are former band alumni or current band students, the alumni remember. So Dr. Deem is currently the marching band director for Syracuse. He was formerly the director for the University of Minnesota marching band. So essentially mine, Griffin's, Soup's, Laurent's, and Wyatt's director. I think for Griffin and I, it was our rookie years. Soup, I think you had him for two. Yeah. So amazing memories with him. Even though for me, I don't know you remember much, Griffin, but our first year, while we didn't see him much, I thought he made an impact. I know for him, like, chair was the key. Like, it was like the shit. Like, you better be hitting 90-degree chair in chair step or high step. And then also, he ran a tight ship when he was there for rehearsals too. I remember on the speaker, it's like, well, that looked fucking terrible. I think he muttered under his breath. So, he was a strict guy, but I had good memories of him, but I don't know about you guys. How about?
No, yeah, there was one point my rookie year where he radioed down off the like megaphone or whatever that he had while he was up there, and he goes, because our dots were all over the place for this whatever weird show that we were doing this week, and as you guys know, I was not a tuba player my freshman year. I was a drummer converted to play tuba. So I wasn't really doing a lot of playing that first year, except for, like off to the sides, trying to, figure out how to play a new instrument. And he radios down, he goes, Sherman, you're down there somewhere, right? And I like waved, and he goes, yeah, you're not playing anything. Why don't you help people figure out what's going on down there? And I was like, thanks, Dr. Deem.
Brutally honest.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was a great director, first couple of years we had with him. He's obviously been through a whole lot, and I just hope he's doing well. He gave me a chance to be in band, basically playing a completely different instrument and having no experience on it at all. So he took a chance on me, and it was, some of the best moments of my life were in band. So I owe him a lot.
What are you, Griffin?
No, yeah, my rookie year was great. Thought he was awesome. Really admired him, and I don't, recall anything directed at me, kind of like Soup, but I really enjoyed like all the kind of, we were, at least you and I, Jason, I guess Soup too, we were all kind of in that transition period where it's like we got to see a lot of the old traditions, and then we kind of got some new ones and kind of the whole culture change. Both I thought were very good too, but it was kind of nice being in that time where it's like you kind of got to see what the band was like and then kind of how it changes over the years. I thought it was a really unique experience being with Deem the first year and then having Betsy the rest of the time, but nothing but good memories for his tenure and Betsy's tenure as well.
Yeah, just to weigh in on what Griff said, it was really cool to see kind of the transition between them both too, because it was it was like something like everybody was like, oh, they were like, yeah, Betsy McCann's going to be the new director after Dr. Dean leaves, and everybody was like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. It was just one of those things that I feel like she really came into her own at the same time that he kind of had to step back because of personal reasons, which are really unfortunate. And I think they both supported each other a lot during that year. And I think the right decision was made in keeping her as the head moving forward. And I think the band has benefited from that. But yeah, that's our band analysis, I guess.
Yeah. But for sure, when the staffs do meet during some of the pre-game festivities and during the day of the game, I'm expecting epic moments they go the staffs go hug each other, dap up Dr. Diem and each other and catch up on how things are going. And maybe Dr. Diem bitching to Skeeter about bowl planning. As that's what I love to hear. Because Dr. Dean, that was his least favorite thing to do. From what I heard from Skeeter. But yeah, so to those alumni and current members, I hope you got to enjoy that bit for a bit. So now let's move on to the Game Boys.
Really quick, I think it'd be. Oh, yeah. I hope the athletic departments get together and tell the broadcast team that, because I think there's a very cool nugget in there that you can talk about in a bowl game that you don't really get a lot, and it would be really, really cool for just the pageantry, the atmosphere of college football, just to kind of draw that line between these two programs, because I know the broadcast is always looking for ways to line up the programs and compare these two programs that really never play each other because they're in different conferences and across divisions and stuff. So that would be a really cool thing for the broadcast to point out. So I really hope they do talk about it a little bit.
Oh, for sure. But the game is going to be broadcasted through ESPN. It's going to be set for a 1 p.m. Central or 2 p.m. Eastern kickoff at Yankee Stadium. So it's going to be outdoors in the baseball stadium. So some quick stuff about Syracuse. So did some digging. They're for 2022, they are 7-5 overall, 4-4 in conference play, putting them third in their division, the Atlantic Division in the ACC. Obviously, the top team, the first place team for the Atlantic Division was Clemson. They tied with Louisville and NC State in the division as well. So some quick overview items I saw about Syracuse. So they won their first 6 games of the season, and then they had a 5-game losing streak right after that.
Yeah.
And then they won their last game versus Boston College 32-23. And to note their 4 losses. So Wake Forest, they lost 35-45. Florida State was 3-38. Pitt was 9-19, and Notre Dame was 24-41. Was their final scores for those 4 losses. To make of this team, Garrett Schrader is their starting quarterback. He is currently a junior. He is anticipated and expected to return next year for the 2023 season. He currently is 170 for 266 on passing, 2,310 yards, 17 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So the dude likes to sling it. They, in terms of average on offense, they pass more than on rushing. Their lead rusher is Sean Tucker, who has 200 plus carries this season for 1,000 plus yards, 11 touchdowns. And then their leading receiver here is Orende Gadsden II, who has 54 receptions for 891 yards and 6 touchdowns this season as their skill leaders on offense. Outside of that, I think this is probably I think this is, despite the record, again they have one less loss and they had a big losing streak. I think these two teams, I think they're very comparable in terms of where they are in their conferences overall. I don't know, what do you guys think about our matchup with Syracuse here?
Oh, yeah, I would agree. I would say that the storyline for each team is very similar too. If you think about the season, the Gophers had high expectations of winning the West and competing, getting to that Big Ten title game for the first time in a while. And Syracuse opens up the season 6-0, and I'm sure people were, really like, hey, if we can, maybe shake it up against Clemson, like anything can happen, So. I think from that point, it's very similar when you look at the two teams on paper as well. We can get into who has the edge here and there later, but I think tail of the tape, these two teams measure up surprisingly nicely against each other.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention the same thing, Jason. Just with how comparable these teams are, we look at obviously we'll get into the details later, but for the most part, like these teams. Beat who they needed to beat in those games, but they also played, a couple more difficult opponents where, for the most part, you put up a fight, but in the end, you just don't have enough to pull it out in the end. But, very comparable teams. I think this will be a really, really good matchup, and one that for the teams, like normally you'd think, no one really expects our run game to be as good as it is when it's out of conference. But with how these two teams rely on offense and defense, they're very, very similar.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see this game, the way how it goes, because some other things I'm looking through the grapevine and other news outlets and other articles out there. Obviously, both teams are impacted by the transfer portal. Like both teams have guys that entered the portal on Monday, when the regular season ended for college football. So both teams do have some attrition right now going into the bowl game. So that's I just want to mention that point. But then going in further, there is no betting odds yet. It's still super early, which is fine. But according to ESPN's FPI, they're actually favoring the Gophers 62% to Syracuse's 38%, which I was surprised by. I thought they were leaning towards more like 50 or like 49 or like 49-51 scenario. But that's FPI as usual. But let's get into nitty gritty, boys. So like I mentioned, let's start on offense. So they are more pass heavy, obviously with their quarterback having 2,000 plus yards. Their lead receivers almost has 1,000 yards as well. But even for rushing, their lead rusher has 1,000 yards on the season as well. So looking at it, Schrader can play. I will say that Schrader can play. But I think their real test that you'll have to face against our Gophers is going to be our secondary. Because we have Nubin, I think, playing this game possibly. Justin Wally, Terrell Smith, Jordan Howden. Like we have a pretty good secondary, which I feel like we don't talk about them enough. Like outside of the pod. And I think it's going to be an amazing test and also a very good linebacking core on our end as well. So I'm curious how Joe Rossi is going to handle this team. And knowing Joe Rossi, when he gets like a full month to prepare on your opponent, like Joe Rossi's defense just eats all the opponents that we've faced so far in every bowl game.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the stats here. They do a pretty good job of turning over the other team. They are really bringing it. It looks like on defense here. Just looking at their their defensive statistics, they have one guy, Caleb Okechukwu, with 7 sacks, 10 TFLs, an interception for a touchdown, and 2 forced fumbles. What? He's a defensive lineman, like,
Sheesh.
yeah, that's quite the stat line. I mean, I think I counted it up here really quick, and they have like close to 30 sacks on the season as a team, and we're talking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 interceptions plus fumbles. Like, they're getting after it on defense. So, I mean, this might be a pretty good front that the offensive line's going to have to deal with. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys with more than 3 sacks on the team.
Yeah. But I want to counter, and I want your guys' thoughts. So, do you think, like, with those stats that their defense has, do you think it's a combination of maybe a weaker conference, like some of their opponents that they play with in conference and maybe out of conference may have skewed those statistics? Because obviously, who were the 2 teams that went to the ACC championship? Was it Clemson and
Florida State?
Florida State? No, wait, was it Florida State?
Or no, Carolina. North Carolina.
North Carolina. So, yeah, because so here are the teams that they beat. So Boston College, Louisville, UConn. They beat Purdue by a 1-score margin, 32-29. Virginia, Wagner, and NC State. Do you think it was the competition they faced in part, or do you think it was?
I mean, I think people would say
else?
the same thing about the Big Ten West, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really buy into that. I mean, you play who you play on the schedule, and those numbers, production is production any way you slice it. Like, we've had a lot of shots at the quarterback that we just don't cash in on, right? We've seen Cody Lindenberg, Braylon Oliver, miss sacks and stuff. Like, they're converting those opportunities. They're getting their hands on the football. They're punching it out. They're getting after it on defense. Like, that stuff matters. And I mean, if you look at most of these games they play too, they're close games for a while, and then the wheels kind of fall off towards the end if they're not winning, like the Notre Dame game, the Florida State game. I mean, Florida State's just super hot right now, But other than that, I mean, 27-21, I watched most of that Clemson game. They kept it close, and they were really, really fighting for a long time. And, I just don't think that kind of production just kind of happens. They got guys all up and down the defense producing, and their quarterback takes care of the football. He's only thrown 6 interceptions all year. We've thrown 9. So,
Yep. Any notes from you, Griffin, about this matchup with our Gophers?
I mean, just how similar these teams are. Neither of them are going to wow you on offense, and they tend to play fairly close games. But like Soup said, there are those few games that stand out. Like for us, it would have been like the Penn State game, where you just didn't have enough firepower. But for the most part, these teams, like, we'll play you close and we'll play you tough. But we're not going to blow you out and wow you with all our special plays, because that's just neither of these teams' style at all. Both teams are going to want to establish the run early and then lean on the passing when they have to.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's interesting because, I mean, if you look at the defensive statistics, the Gophers are allowing on average 279 yards a game, and Syracuse is allowing 338, which is interesting to me because the Gophers' defense does not have nearly the production that Syracuse's defense has. But I would say that Syracuse is playing in a stronger conference when it comes to offenses. So, how different are those two numbers? Offensively, we outgain them as well, technically, if you look at the year-over-year averages, 404 to 365. But, it's really the picture that we paint is like a much more methodical one, whereas they seem to really, really benefit from explosive plays.
Mm-hmm. But for sure, there's one thing that I am expecting this game. As far as we know, I'm expecting Mohamed Ibrahim to be our runaway locomotive. Because I swear, every bowl game Mo has played, those defenders didn't know what they were expecting. A la Georgia Tech in Detroit back then, Auburn in Tampa, and we didn't go. And then he didn't play in the bowl game against West Virginia.
No.
But he's I think as far as we know, nothing's been said yet, but he will probably be playing. So I'm expecting Mo to like run dudes over this game.
Well, the trend for all the bowl games in the PJ Fleck era is that they just have been dominant up front.
Yeah.
In every single bowl game. So I think you kind of hope for that again, because this front seven from Syracuse on defense seems like, the biggest thing you have to worry about. They've got a pretty good corner too, who's got, where is this guy? I mean, they've got this corner, I think his name is Jihad Carter. Yeah, Jihad Carter, one of their DBs. He's got 3 picks and a fumble recovery for a touchdown.
Ooh,
a
nice.
90-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. So, I mean, they've got playmakers, so, on both sides. So it'll be interesting, but Syracuse looks to be a very, very explosive team, and the Gophers' defense especially has fared well against those teams and limiting them. So,
So excited for that. But it's gonna be a fun game here coming up. But besides Mo, I assume all of us are anticipating Atham to start.
I think you have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Yeah.
No offense to Tanner, but like, what's the point?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't expect to see Tanner in this game.
The reps for Athan are just invaluable right now.
Yeah, for sure. Going on from there, also a good opportunity. I know for both sides, but I know for the Gophers, this is like bowl games like this where we prepare for so long and have new added wrinkles to offense and defense as well, like some younger guys getting on the action. I remember in years past, like for example against Detroit, in Detroit for the Quick Lane Bowl, for PJ's first bowl game as a Gophers head coach, or in other games where we had younger guys rotated in and they perform very, very well because they're very, very talented and athletic, as what PJ does when he recruits his players. So I'm also anticipating young guys, especially ones we haven't seen much all season, making in big plays as well from the Gophers. I don't know any names that have been spit out just yet, but I'm excited for that as well. Any other items to discuss about this bowl game coming up before we get on to some predictions?
Key piece, no Michael Dixon, as he's entering the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he plays or not. I don't know what their internal philosophy is on that if you plan on transferring at the end of the season, if you play the bowl game or whatever. But that's a big piece of your defense that might not be available to you. And I mean, even going into next year, it's going to hurt, because I think Dixon did a lot for them on offense and covered up a lot of problems they had, I think, with athleticism at the linebacker position especially. I mean, because between Mariano, Cody Lindenberg, your next linebacker was Michael Dixon, who is a nickel. So I think he wants to play safety full time, and I think he didn't want to. With Newbin coming back, I think he just kind of saw the writing on the wall that, it's unfortunate that I think Tyler breaks his wrist, because I think that changes a lot of things for him. Maybe he's in the NFL if he doesn't break his wrist, and then Michael Dixon stays, right? Like, this is the world of college sports we live in now, one domino falling, and it sucks to see a guy like Michael Dixon go. Really good player, wish him nothing but the best at whatever happens moving forward for him, but I think that's like the most immediate impact that you'll see for this game.
You have something, Griffin?
Not necessarily. I think it'll be interesting, because I believe in the past Syracuse, and I believe they still do, has used like a 3-3-5 defensive scheme. So I think
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see how we match up against that and how we adapt to that. Because I think that's been huge to their production as well. And you know, that's not. I would say that's not typically a Big Ten
No.
setup for on a defense. So it might be a good experience for the offense in general, but it's gonna force us to change our play calling and find plays that work
Yeah.
for that.
I mean,
But it's good.
Yeah, I think, if they want to play a 3-3-5, I think that only benefits what the Gophers want to do, because I think if you give up that much mass and speed up front, like the Gophers are just going to want to push you around and run the ball down your throat and so I think they're going to have to adjust kind of what they want to do, because I think if you look at the tape, especially against this Wisconsin game, I mean, like, I think that's the offense you're going to see against Syracuse. I think you're going to see the Wisconsin game plan, kind of a version of it, because I think Ethan's just so efficient with the football. If the line can hold up, you're going to see, them want to push the ball downfield, especially, I would say, against a 3-3-5. So,
and with their defense pushing our offensive line, we might see him roll out of the pocket more.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a very interesting scheme call there, Griff. Thanks.
But yeah, exciting matchup coming up. So let's go to predictions, gentlemen. So, Wyatt, he's out tonight, but he did give us his predictions prior. So Wyatt is going dub, 23-14. I said dub, but I said 24-13. And I'll give it to whoever wants to take a crack at it.
Give me 28-24 Gophers. Give it to me.
28-24?
Yeah. I think both teams are going to put up some points. I think it should be a fun one.
All right, Griffin, you're last.
Mohammed Ibrahim is going to be that bad boy mowing through that turf field and the grass in the outfield. I'm going to go 27 Gophers, 20 Syracuse.
All right. Awesome. Well, that'll wrap up this preview portion of the bowl game. Again, the Bad Boys Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. But however, I do want to take this segment to discuss if you are planning to travel to New York. Let's get some Opa Podcast travel tips, gentlemen. I bet all three of us like to travel. So I know Griffin and I in the past, when we like to travel to other states, particularly when we went to Piscataway. Griffin, remember that trip? We used Skyscanner to find our cheap tickets to New Jersey. Same thing apply to New York. So you plan to do that, go ahead. If you're a Delta family or couple or person here in Minnesota, obviously there is direct routes from Minneapolis to LaGuardia, JFK, or Newark via Delta, but also many other airlines. So there is opportunities. And also, I believe Go for Football or Go for Athletics is taking on, I think, travel packages for like flights, hotels.
They usually do.
Yeah, always do. So you can check that out on gophersports.com. But is there anything else you guys want to chime in on travel stuff for New York?
Some sites that I've used in the past too, skiplagged.com. A lot of those will find routes where it's actually cheaper to book a flight where your destination ends up actually being the layover spot. So like I went out to Bozeman, Montana in late September, and it was cheaper for me to book a ticket from Bozeman to San Francisco because the layover was in Minneapolis and I could just get off in Minneapolis than it was just to book direct Bozeman to MSP. It was like,
that's hilarious.
It was $100 cheaper just to book through that way and just walk out the door at MSP. So other than Skyscanner, which is a great tool, and I'm looking at flights right now just in case, skiplagged.com is another good option. Who United Airlines sued them and lost. So it's real.
Get owned, United. My dad works for American Airlines, so get owned, United. Um, mine's just because I haven't traveled to a bowl game since school. Uh, so I haven't really I don't have any of those travel tips, but I will say it's just general travel tip, especially for a trip like this where you're kind of in, you're out for a couple days. I think you have two options. One, it's New York, make a trip of it, like go see the holiday sites in New York. That could be really fun. One of the best ways to make these bowl game trips feel even more fun is to extend them into like mini vacations, I think. So that's one thing I would like to do. And then the other thing I would say is do not check anything that you don't need. You do not want to get to the game if you're one of those people who's in like two or 3 days for the game. You don't want to get to the game, land in New York, and have no clothing or like nothing basically useful to you. So pack in your carry-on like some essentials, like a change of clothes, extra socks, anything you think you might like need, because if your bag gets lost, you don't want to be like completely boned. You want to be able to be like, all right, we can work with this. I can make this work. I have like a change of clothes. Maybe it was the clothes I was planning on wearing for the game anyway, stuff like that.
And I'd say one more travel tip. I don't know if you'll necessarily need it because the public transportation in New York is very good. But if you have an American Express card, a lot of them have rental car coverage protection attached to the use of their card. So decline the waivers at the rental car windows if you plan on renting a car, but check your American Express app and your specific card first before.
Same thing with Capital One and Chase. If you're a Chase or Capital One or Amex customer on travel cards.
Yes.
Honestly, I think if you rent a car in New York, you deserve it though. Like,
True.
don't do that. You're not gonna have a good time.
No, you're not.
Don't rent in New York.
You're gonna spend so much just on parking.
The train is $3 each way.
You'll be
Please
fine.
Or what's it? How much? Like 10, 15 bucks for an all day pass as well, or something like that, or less. So it's not too bad.
Yes.
All right, going on from there, travel tips. So, championship weekend. So, I was personally watching the games in and out, guys, but I think I was more interested in the Purdue Michigan game, and I was like, oh, Purdue's down one score at half, and I didn't see the rest of the game for like a while, and I'm like, how the hell is it 28-13, and then it went to, was it 36-13 or 16? Because like Michigan went for the 2-point conversion with that interesting play that they did for the 2-point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what the fuck happened, Purdue? What happened?
Well, Purdue's wasn't built to play 4 quarters effectively. They're just not built that way.
Yeah, just look at the Syracuse game.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, sure, Purdue pulls off an upset every now and then, but just Michigan's just not that team this year.
Yeah.
Also, like, you guys think Blake Corum is good? Donovan Edwards might be better.
Donovan Edwards was scary in that game. Man.
Yeah, I mean, woof. What are you gonna do about that? That's a tough one, man. Like, it's just they just lose Blake Corum, before the Ohio State game, and like the Purdue game kind of played out exactly how the Ohio State game was. It was like close for a little bit, and then Donovan Edwards just kind of took over and put the game away. So, I mean, scary.
Yeah, like I think overall, like, well, yes, Purdue's defense did get some stops, especially in the first half, but I think Jim Harbaugh and the staff made amazing adjustments at halftime. Where
it's just too much of a talent gap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so hard to overcome that kind of a talent gap. You're looking at like a top 10 recruiting class every year at Michigan. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's almost unfair at one point.
Yeah. But yeah, that game, when the Michigan's very, very, very quick in the second half.
Yeah,
I
man,
think
watch out for Michigan.
yeah.
Watch out. Like, they're playing really good football at the right time. And I think they got I think they're very happy that Ohio State has to play Georgia and they get to play TCU.
Oh yeah, I was going to mention teams in the semifinals. So let me pull that up quickly here.
Yeah, I got it right in front of me. It's Georgia versus Ohio State in the Peach Bowl on December 31st. And the other game that day is Michigan versus TCU at the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona.
And I do want to mention so Georgia and Michigan came out with victories in their championship games this past weekend. Ohio State didn't play, obviously, but TCU I think was a loss by
Yep.
single
Did you watch
digits.
that game?
I saw the ending of that game.
It was one of the best college football games I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life.
like that game was so insane. I was thoroughly enjoying it. It just so happened that they lost in OT, right? I believe.
Yeah, because they just decided to try to run the ball the entire overtime. And it was just like, people were like, oh, Max Duggan must really be hurt. I'm like, well, he threw that 2-point conversion just fine. I think he probably had one or two more in him.
Yeah, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun matchup to see on December 31st. For the semifinals. Um, do you guys want to?
Also,
Oh,
what's
go
up,
ahead.
SEC? What's up? How you guys doing? You guys got enough teams in the playoff? Oh wait, is that two Big Ten teams in the playoff? Oh, that's too bad.
That's too bad. That's too bad.
That's too bad. All that trash and y'all want to talk about our conference? That's too bad.
But
So,
actually, with the two games coming up, let's do some predictions then. Actually, so, uh, Peach Bowl, Georgia and Ohio State. Who do you guys think will win?
give me the dogs.
All right, Griffin.
Yeah, I like Georgia's defense too much.
I
was
also just don't want to see an Ohio State Michigan rematch in the final, and I think Michigan blows the doors off of TCU. I think TCU coming off that game, it's gonna. I mean, one we have to find out if Max Duggan is okay. Two, I that's gonna be a tough one to bounce back from mentally because that was a long, drawn out game. So I'm sure they're going to show up for the playoff, but I think Michigan's just riding on a hot one right now. So,
Whoops, I hit my mic there. But yeah, I'm going for Dogs in Michigan for the championship game. And Griffin, I assume you're leaning towards Michigan on that.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. But other than that,
I do want to say kudos to the selection committee though, because I think they got this one right. It would have been very easy to sneak Alabama in there at the end.
Oh yeah.
But I really think they got this right. I think these are the four best teams, and I think it was very weird to be watching the Big Ten championship and to see Nick Saban come on and go, please, Daddy, NCAA, put me into playoff for like 20 minutes during the Big Ten championship game. It's like, what is happening? Like, what other coach in football would get like a 15-minute primetime slot to like beg the committee to put his team in the playoff? It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I did not see that. So I'll probably say myself though.
Made me so mad. Made me so mad. Because, like, can you imagine, like, Ryan Day coming on TV during the Big Ten championship and being like, yeah, I think we played really well. We probably deserve to be there. We're one of the four best teams in college football right now, so why shouldn't we be there? Like, at least he's in the correct conference at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe so upset. I mean, but there's some fun bowl games down the schedule, though.
Oh, there are. Let me pull up the other Big Ten teams who are slated for bowl games. So, no Big Ten team is doing the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit.
Yeah, that was the one we were trying to figure out.
Yep. So actually, that's not Big Ten this season, but so the early bowl game is going to be the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Wisconsin versus Oklahoma State. And just so you guys know, Graham Mertz entered the portal So Chase Wolf is likely to be the starter for this game.
Yeah, insert my heart will go on here. Oh, so sad. Oh no.
And
I'll just never forget when we won the Axe in 2021 last year. I'll never forget him sliding 2 yards short on 4th down. That was hilarious. Thank you, Grant Mertz.
Yeah. But all of that, also Luke Fickle, I don't know if he's coaching this game or not. I think Jim Leonard might be coaching this game, but we don't know yet. It might be a situation where like Jim Leonard might not return. It'll be an interim to the interim situation, but we shall see.
I saw that he's coming back as DC.
Okay, that's
for Fickle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Jim Leonard is back.
Okay, so Leonard,
which I'm sure he's getting a nice little pay bump. I would hope.
He better be.
Yeah, I would not be coming if I was him. I would not be coming back without some big old dollar signs calling me back.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't know. Like, kudos to Jim Leonard. I think Luke Fickle pitched to him exactly what got pitched to Luke Fickle a long time ago, when Luke Fickle was the DC for Urban Meyer, right?
So yeah, he was part of Jim Trustle's staff. Jim got fired, and then Urban came on after that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they kept Fickle, who like a lot of people wanted to see as the head coach. They kept him on as DC. He eventually goes to Cincinnati, right? So I think Fickle probably pitched him the same thing.
Yeah,
and I think you see the players too, not because Leonard was such a players coach.
Yeah,
and that was and you saw like we all saw those tweets and all their reactions, and stuff like that. Even with Paul Chris being gone, like imagine you lose Chris and Leonard, you'd have just
a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, but you'd have a lot of instability within that program, and you don't want that. So,
yeah,
I mean, as a Gopher fan, you selfishly want that. But if you're Wisconsin's program, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you.
But other than that, I really haven't followed Oklahoma State either, so I don't know what to expect. But it's that meme, that guy sweating about the two buttons. Like, do I root for Big Ten to win in bowl game season, or do I want to see Wisconsin lose because they're Wisconsin?
I mean, ideally, you'd like to see the Big Ten go X-1, right?
Yeah. But again, we shall see with that game. But next bowl game, guys, Duke's Mayo Bowl will be Maryland versus NC State.
Interesting one.
Yeah, I know we were rooting for Mayo Bowl because
yeah, I think the Pinstripe Bowl gets first pick though, and I think
yeah.
they picked the Gophers in Syracuse, and I think we would have landed there had we not been picked for Pinstripe.
Yeah. So if Loxley wins, he's getting a Mayo bath.
Loxley he is not about that.
He said it. He said he'll do it on Twitter. That
surprises me.
Hey, anything to motivate your players, right?
Literally, but I think Talia's got.
And I'm sure he saw in his contract there's a bowl game bonus in there and said, "Oh yeah, you can dump Mayo on me, sure."
Yeah. Next up, Music City Bowl in Tennessee is Iowa versus Kentucky.
I don't want to have anything to do with that game. That sounds terrible.
Yeah. The Rely Quest.
Will Levis versus the Iowa defense, though, right?
Oh, true. Yeah.
That should be some interesting tape for him before the draft. So
yeah. But next up, the Rely Quest Bowl. Is that the former San Diego Holiday Bowl?
Yes, I think so.
Illinois is playing against Mississippi State.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. The Illini defense against the Mississippi State offense. Is that the former coach of Washington State?
Mike Leach, yeah.
Is it Mike Leach? Well,
right. Mike Leach, who has like this weird custom-made hoodie that's in like a font that isn't approved by the university and colors that are not on the university color palette, and it just says state in white letters on a gray sweatshirt, and it's just all he wears on the sideline now, but you can't buy it anywhere because I'm sure he just like had a screen printed. I don't know. It's so funny.
Mike Leach is a funny dude. But going on from there, Citrus Bowl is Purdue versus LSU.
That one could be ugly.
Yeah.
That's a tough draw, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say like rip Purdue. Like Brian Kelly is kind of figured out LSU now. Like he's Brian Kelly that we know him to be from
Again,
Notre Dame. So
talent gap,
Yeah.
like ugh. So I don't know. I mean, if you watch that SEC championship game, LSU didn't look too good either. So
true, very true. Rose Bowl again. This is the year they're not going to be a playoff. Penn State versus Utah.
man, this one's gonna be a doozy.
Penn State.
This is gonna be a fun one, man. Both two really, really good teams,
Yeah.
and I think Penn State's still better than people think they are. Just because they play in the East with Ohio State and Michigan, it's hard. But I think that there's no reason this Penn State team should not be a top 10 team. I do not understand why they're 11. They should be a top 10 team. There's just no reason.
Yeah, and then obviously the two bowl games, the Fiesta and Peach Bowl, are for the semifinals. But yeah, that's it. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Big Ten teams in bowl games for this holiday season.
Yeah, and the quote unquote like selection committee bowl games, they're all really fun this year. You got, as you said, Utah, Penn State. Then you got USC versus Tulane. Spicy.
Yeah.
And then Alabama versus Kansas State. I think that'll be fun.
Ooh.
And then Tennessee versus...
Is that Adrian Martinez's team?
Well, he's hurt. I don't think he's playing. He's been hurt for a while. He's been hurt for a while, dude. And then Tennessee versus Clemson, where absolutely zero defense will be played and a bazillion points will be scored.
Dude, this is going to be a fun bowl season.
Yeah.
All right. But before we wrap up for our last episode of the season, guys, I
wanted to shout out one of the Gopher coaches really quick because I saw today.
Go ahead.
That Danny Collins, who I believe is the safeties coach, he's the safeties coach, got named to the 2023 American Football Coaches Association's 35 under 35 class for this year.
Nice.
So, I mean, very cool.
Also,
very cool to see those coaches get recognition.
It's funny. It just came out on my Twitter.
And also, please increase the assistant coaching salary pool, because now that you're starting to get national attention on guys like Kenny Burns, Danny Collins, and stuff like that, like, let's not lose these coaches. Let's pay them.
Yeah, pretty please. But before we wrap up, guys, and for our viewers and listeners, I just want to say a big old thank you to everyone. Being here for our rants, which you probably have likely enjoyed. Being there for like maybe our most excited or maybe just mundane episode, because like we won. We were on at that time a 4-game winning streak. Like it's repeating the same stuff, but it's been a very fun year from not just me, but I think the other guys can probably have to share the same sentiments. And also, I'm also want to be thankful to you guys. So obviously, Soup and Griffin, you're here, but I express this also to Wyatt and LeBron's. Thank you so much for communicating with us with me on the chat, figuring things out on availability. I know we're all busy, and to be able to put a podcast out each week. So I am very fortunate to not just our fans and listeners and viewers, but also appreciate and thank you guys, my co-hosts, onto this show, because I can't do it without you guys.
And we can't do this without you, Jason. You set everything up, and you're kind of the big kahuna that runs the show, and we appreciate that. It takes a lot to run this.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it that not everybody sees, and Jason just continuously does it. No ifs, ands, or buts. So
it's more than just an hour-long rant. We got Jason behind the scenes after and before.
Try my best. But let's end the episode here, gentlemen. So again, to everyone watching and listening, this will be the last episode for the 2022 season. We may have a surprise episode or a quick special episode in between, but we'll take a very long break and hiatus just to get back to our normal lives and other stuff as well. But we'll be back again when it gets closer to the 2023 Gopher football season. But from there, wish you a great holiday season for the remainder of the year. Happy bowl season as well. And we'll see you guys next time. And I'm one of your hosts, Jason O, along with
Griffin Most.
And Soup.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Oh.
Oh.